extent as he has been known to do in the past. Another question, and this is kind of an interesting question. We're starting to get into a little bit more of a look at the actual individual horses one by one, and obviously going into the Kentucky Derby, Curlin was a bit of a talking horse. He was made the morning line favorite, which I think shocked a lot of people, but it's worth noting he was only a tick behind Street Sense in second in terms of the betting at Churchill Downs, and he did run a fairly good race. He was taken back off the pace. He was a little further back nominally in the race in terms of how many lengths off the pace he was, but his pace figures didn't significantly change, so he kind of ran the same race. One note about Curlin: he has worked out since the Kentucky Derby. He had a fairly leisurely 4-furlong workout as opposed to some of the quicker workouts that we have seen. But any particular opinions about Curlin from the panel, and whether or not they think that this Kentucky Derby effort took a lot out of this relatively green horse, or if he has a chance of moving forward as well? And Tom, we'll start at your end of the table this time.
Curlin on speed figures looks very much the way No Biz Like Showbiz looked. He's a little faster than No Biz Like Showbiz, but he runs the same figure. He has not really improved or regressed much, and he's run these races in a relatively short period of time. I'm against Curlin here as well. I won't be shocked if he wins, but I'm not sure. First of all, I'm sure he's not as quick early as some of these other horses, and I'm not sure he's as quick late as he's going to have to be to hold off or to run by the field. So I'm looking at Curlin as an underneath horse, and perhaps a horse who may regress, having run 4 identical figures. The status quo doesn't exist. You're either going to go forward or you're going to regress. He hasn't gone forward yet, and I'm not one who believed that the trip in the Derby was all that tough. I thought he got what was an expected trip. In the Derby, you're going to get bumped, and you're going to be in the vice between horses. When he got a chance to run, he ran, but he had nowhere to go.
Untrue.
Anthony?
Obviously, the Exacta didn't get bumped or put in the vice at all in the Kentucky Derby. The horse that finished best, that received the typical Kentucky Derby, was the horse who we knew on Wednesday got the worst of it. He drew post position too. On the mathematics of it, I completely agree. One of my big knocks about No Biz Like Showbiz was he hadn't improved from his debut, which was in early September of his previous year. So to me, that's big-time negatives. What I like about Curlin is that he's shown me a physical presence, which is fine. But I was against him in the Kentucky Derby. I loved his effort in the Kentucky Derby. There is a very long list of horses who have come into the Kentucky Derby with so little experience and have not extricated themselves at all. Curlin, I thought, and I said this about Circular Key last year when he lost at odds on the Breeders' Futurity. I was more impressed with Circular Key in that race, and I was far more impressed with Curlin in the Kentucky Derby in their defeats than I was ever impressed with their victories. Curlin, to me, had not rough trips when you're just really screaming to be able to get out and just stretch your legs, which in shorter fields and races that he was able to physically command, he was able to do that. Very difficult to do in the Kentucky Derby just by the fact that it's probably the only time, unless you're running the Arc, you're going to run with 19 other combatants. He didn't shy away from it. I thought he took it like a man, if you would, his effort in the Kentucky Derby. And I think to finish third behind 2 horses, 2, I think, very good horses, trained to the minute to run to date, clearly the best races of their life, and they had much better post positions. I thought Curlin, forget the fact that he did run third, was clearly the best of the others when you take everything into the mix. The question for Curlin is the question that I have every single day, whether it's the second race at Belmont on Friday or these $1 million races, and that is, where will Curlin go from here? I was rather sure Street Sense would go forward off of the Bluegrass Stakes. Curlin, to me, showed you know, he was in a dogfight in the Kentucky Derby, different type of racing scenario, and I thought he performed admirably for it, had no chance to threaten the exacta, who had everything their way, and if they get everything their way, maybe he can't threaten them. But I am very intrigued to see if Curlin can move half a step forward with a much better trip in a much shorter field. I like his running style. I could see him receiving a trip similar to the one he received in the Arkansas Derby.
Seth?
I think you can go either way with Curlin, and I think we've seen that with the two opinions expressed already. I'm going to take a stand against him, but I think you can have the opinion that Anthony just expressed, that he's one that can move forward off of that Derby effort. I think he's a perfect example of 21st century training, though. We only have 4 starts to make these judgments on, and I think coming off of the Arkansas races, he looks like he could be a superstar, but then you can look at the Derby and you can either take the opinion Anthony had, that he had some trouble there, could step forward off of that, or did that race expose him a little bit? I mean, he was 8 lengths behind Street Sense. He was almost 6 lengths behind Hard Spun. He was only a couple lengths. He was less than a couple lengths in front of Circular Key. So I'm going to take a little bit of a stand against Curlin. That workout on the 14th of May is maybe a little bit of a negative for me. It was a slow workout. I don't know whether you like to see that. However, I will note that if you look at his workout just before the Arkansas Derby, that was also a slow workout. So that just may be the trainer's pattern there. So as I say, maybe a little bit of a negative for me, but you have to look at the way the trainer has come into some other races with this horse and say it's not the negative that you would give to some other horses and their trainers with a workout like that. But as I said, I'm going to take a little bit of a stand against Curlin, but I think you can legitimately go either way with this horse.